Hello, hi, welcome back. Glad to see you all here. It is time, finally, after all that suspense for 2 weeks, to see if we get the dreaded TPK. I don't know. I don't know. My heart goes out. It's beating already. It is Star Wars Episode 17, When the Salt Hits the Fan. I was going to use that last week, and then the session got postponed. I'm pretty sure. I don't think that was 16. I'm pretty sure this is Salt Hits the Fan. To summarize, what happened 2 weeks ago is the crew having finished delivered the Rancor, moved on, did a little bit in Nar Haaska, some conversations and information gathering. We got to get a sense of kind of some world going on around, or the galaxy going on around them. Mostly a gambling sabacc tournament on a grand ship being held by Kirka. The crew moved on. They did their thing. They got the Poodoo and the Remembrance airborne again, and they set off for a about 5 days to a week journey to Nar Haaska, in which Kato made some interesting choices based on stuff that had been set in place before, and things happened. He Technically they helped you unless you wanted to fail, you know. And he forcibly made Lissy, precious little Lissy, interact with their frozen weird cargo that they've had all the way since session 1, 2. Technically 2 is when you actually got it in your possession. And basically she's had it for the week, almost a week, which has in and of itself had its effect. And it wasn't, so far, not quite a good effect, because she didn't want to surrender it when he was going to bring it for sale to Bishop, who was a delightful woman with a very interesting manner of speech. We know that some people adored it. um I'm sorry for those that don't like Family Guy, because that's mostly where it came from, is Bottom Tooth. For those that know that character, that's where the yes thing came from, because they have the bottom tooth characters, right? Anyways, so you wrestled it from her. You brought it into the hot the palace, the penthouse sort of this massive construct on this planet. Massive upon massive. It was, an understatement of how big this thing was, and how weird it made the kind of the overall planet look as a scene. But then you brought it out by yourself. A very interesting. I definitely say, if I was doing this as a movie, it's a very, very compelling scene to have something like this where Kato is trying to push this thing out. It's a two-man carry chest, pushing it by himself. It's kind of. But I think but still, the sentiment is that you were solo, right? Like, that's an interesting scene, that out of having a crew, and out of all the things that happen, we're in this scene where you're doing this by yourself, right? And I think it tells a lot, just from the creative mindset, those who get really into that type of stuff. It's a very interesting scene. But you bring it out, you get escorted by the guards, you go meet Bishop, an interesting, sophisticated woman, sophisticated, and finds out that this is for the Hutts, for some new, very important, like, special weapon program. And basically Kato is helping drive the Hutts agenda in this post-Empire galaxy. And he is now going to be, for bringing this in, it could be revered and given all this favor and reputation, all this glory, blah 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 blah. At which point Kato, I think, realizes just how much of the salt had hit the fan, and how deep he was in it. Yeah. And that was furthered even more so once he returned to the ship after having gone to sail. A smooth 160, I think it was that great number, wasn't it? 169,000 credits. And you get that smooth, just easy data chip for that. Go back to the ship, and lo and behold, Lissy's not there. In fact, she's not, her weapon isn't there, her laminate armor isn't there, and some of her alchemy stuff wasn't there. So, damn. So he calls up to the Poodoo, sorry, in orbit. They didn't want to bring it down to the planet because it was already damaged, and they didn't want to deal with other potential problems, as we saw in Nar Shaddaa a couple episodes ago. Or, in fact, just a episode ago, I think. No, it was 2 episodes ago. 2 episodes ago. So he calls up, says, "Yeah, I need some help." Mason and Nard are, "Sure, yeah. Damn it. I mean, things are wrong. What's wrong? Okay, we're on our way down. Let's bring this thing back down to ground." And as they're getting into atmosphere, they get a nice view looking out as a Victory class Star Destroyer entered into orbit around the planet, just to put an extra point on the meter. And that is where exactly we left off. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that. So we'll yeah, I mean, we'll kick it right off right from there. Like the episode comes in starting strong. What is the reaction, and what do the two of you in the poodoo do? To be clear, because it's just in orbit and you start entering, you have quite a bit of distance. Be clear on the. It's not like it's on top of you. It's good question. I don't remember even what this ship is called officially again. I think the ship is Silhouette 5, which is a silhouette above the Remembrance. The Victory, I'm pretty sure it's still 7, like a even it's on the smaller end of 7 compared to an Imperial class Star Destroyer. Let's see if I can find the info quickly enough. Um, that's not right. Apparently, the victory and the Imperial are both silhouette 8. So they'd be on the low end of eight for the victory. The Imperial will be on the more of the upper scale of it. Uh, you guys are 5. Yeah, yes, yeah. I think you guys would be able to fit in and dock on it. Like it's, you'd probably take up a bit of their one hangar or whatever, but you could still go on to a Star Destroyer. I think that seems reasonable. Oh, just crashing the scaling. No, I think you would probably still get some decent damage. The shielding is kind of a problem though. I mean, but it'd be shield against shields. I mean, you could probably do something. Sure, yeah, if you wanted the suicide into the opposite, you could probably do a number on it. Because I mean, episode 6 had oh no, I think they lost their shields though. Yeah, because the Y wing or the yeah, the Y wing crashed into, was it A wing crashed into the Superstar Destroyer. But did the Superstar Destroyer have its shields up or not, or was it they disabled? Was that the key thing? I can't remember. I get the feeling that they were down, and then the A wing happened to crash in at that moment. Because I remember they took out a big like spherical shield generator thingy, and I think that was the moment just before the A wing crashed in. So the A wing did a lot of damage just, I mean, without shields though, did a lot of damage just as a fighter. You'd be bigger than that, but the shields would be up. So it's kind of that weird like exchange of variables. You know what I mean? I'm gonna assume you left it on the ship because technically that was back for Nar Shaddaa, but I'll give it to you that it was still on the ship. You just weren't in a rush. You were trying to repair the engines, and you left the spacesuit on Voodoo. Okay. Ah. Um, I was just trying to think of something else to be noticeable, but I think the Prudo is too much of a mess to really do what I was going to or present what I was going to present. So yeah, we'll do a piloting. Um, I mean, you're not under really. I mean, you yourself think you're under duress, but there isn't actually anything that's happened yet. So I still say it's a pretty much a normal piloting check. It's 2 purple. Yeah, and then you gain an assist for a blue die. I think that's fine. I don't. There's nothing else that's really like the scene. Nothing's happened yet. There's no blaster shots shooting through your. Wow. For the audience, two things that are wow is one, all the light side that they rolled, and then this roll itself just came in bombing with or slapping with the successes. So I don't know how to even almost cover all those successes because it's basically you do it with style. Like if there's something you want to put in there, feel free. You do it, yeah, you do it quickly. Definitely some time, if there was ever a time issue, that's not an issue. You get down, in like a snap of a finger. It's maybe one of those like skirt moments where you're just rocketing in, and then you just pull like a hard settle in. You probably get a landing pad quickly next to, well, like the next pad over from the Remembrance, which is, there's a bit of a gap between the two ships, or a fair bit of a gap between two ships. It's not like a short walk per se, but it's pretty much, the neighbor in terms of landing pads on this level, and you bring it to a stop. You're all good. Where where is Kato again? Sure. So, I guess you would probably just have missed the ship then, unless him moving beeline means slowly, which I don't think it does. Even well, you're still allowed in because like it kind of from their perspective. I mean, like literally moments before, even though it's been a couple of weeks for us, literally moments before, you were given the offer that I share a drink, have some casual fun time, basically with Bishop, with the massive great view and all that stuff. So like it basically looked like you just left, and like 5 minutes later you come bolting back. So they're like, oh, okay, yeah, come back on in. Like there's no point of protest, right? So what is Kato then up to? Because basically the idea is that when Mason and Nard get to the Remembrance, the ramp is down, doors open, but there's no one inside. And I guess if depending on how Mason and Nard look when they get on the Remembrance, the cargo's gone, the freezing one. Yeah, sure. Essentially a palace, but I don't think it would probably look like a traditional hut palace per se. It had a different architecture to it. I mean, it has a lot of hut roots, but it's not specifically traditional hut. Yeah, that's perception. If it's about Lissette's trail, yeah, we'll probably have to do more of a roll. I think there's a couple things that will just happen potentially anyways. Okay. All right. Give me a two purple and a red perception check. It's basically against her stealth. I think that was on the remembrance. Mm, but we'll let it happen again. You got the benefit of being different sessions that are 2 weeks apart. Yeah. Right. You're still just not really getting it. Um, but um, no, I was gonna give this to you anyways. This wouldn't really make sense for a threat. That's not really. It's kind of pointless. The threat is you're raising suspicion because you came back and you're not going right back to the bishop, so you're just kind of this weird lingering guest. Yeah. Yeah. Um, but something you do catch that it was going to happen kind of regardless of the role, is that you do notice that the a bunch of guards are uh something seems to have happened basically. Like there's a noticeable change in the atmosphere as like it seems like guards are getting armed. Maybe a bunch of guards are being woken up out of the barracks and then getting armed and whatnot. Like suddenly there's kind of a an increasing presence. Like they're not actually at their posts yet, but there's an increasing presence as like something has happened. Okay. So anything else the pair do at the remembrance when there's no one there? Did No, you said they need to get down to the ship right away. I don't Doesn't sound familiar either. Um, they acknowledge it. It's a little weird, and they seem a little distracted, which potentially, with the information you were just provided, starts to make more sense. So, do both come in? Oh, I meant for the two back of the remembrance. Like, what's their next action? Yeah, you guys went over. You said you went over to the remembrance. Just a bit. Right. Yep. No, you had to get that extra message to him before he finally said that he has to look for Lissy. Oh, sorry. Well, for the most part, the only real construct is the palace building. So you're pretty much for the moment heading in the same direction. But like once you get clear of the entrance, then it's probably when you split and deviate into looking for something else. I think it would be pretty easy to find Kato. I think he's still kind of out in the open. He hasn't really done anything unless there's something you want to do before as Mason was on his way. Yeah, you're already there, but something else. Otherwise, Mason finds you. Your call. Mason, when you get into the palace, you get, if you remember how I described it before in character to Cato about the extravagantness and the elaborate and the prestige of this place, like the marble-ish floors, the like really long grand staircase that goes up like 5 stories, like all the way up, and it just has little like offshoot sections, and the banners with the huts and the oil painting of a couple huts from times past and whatnot. Like you see like all of that. You're in the lap of luxury. Sure. You didn't say you want to do anything else. We'll just jump to you find Kato. You run into him somewhere and it's still a relatively public area. Like it's not, he hasn't dipped anywhere private yet. Bishop. Yeah, you go up to the big double doors that I had, like the grand double doors, and you try to push on them, but there's like resistance, like they're like locked. Maybe you drum on it or whatnot, and you end up hearing like a lot of you end up hearing like a lot of like elevated conversation, like almost yelling in Bishop's voice, but you're only hearing like one half of a conversation. Like you're not hearing another participant too well. Like you hear maybe like a soft kind of murmuring from behind the door. Give me a hard perception check. 3 purple. Yeah. You can't really discern. What was the specific? Can you make out what they're saying? Yeah, you're not. You're not. I was gonna maybe try to throw something, but yeah, I don't know. That's just too much of a straight failure. Two failures just doesn't give you any. You're pretty much getting half of a conversation. Like one side is clearly in that like pretty much yelling, and then there's another that you just really can't make out. It's just not audible enough. Well, the doors are locked. So what's the approach you take? Um, there's a lot of elevated busyness with them, so there probably isn't on this side of the door. Um, psychic lock. uh, um, that's a neat thought. I'm sure those exist. Force locks. I think. Yeah, I mean that's basically what it is. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah. I'd say it's a. It's not. I'd say it's a mechanical lock. It's probably not like crazy sophisticated. It is still kind of an important room, but it's kind of one of those you're already in the palace if you're at this door. So it's like it's not like the locks that would be on the outer doors. So it's, the difference between like the hard security and just the partial security. And this would be the partial in that case. So it's a decent lock, but it's not great. It's not the lock that was on the chest that held the artifact. Like 10 feet tall, probably like 7 wide or whatever. Like they're grand double doors. Yeah, I think I said a fine wood. Uh, the the outer surface appears stone. Okay. The painful question is, what are you lockpicking it with? Because you're basically like a second away from just flipping a destiny and shooting the fucking door open. Okay. Okay. Flip the destiny. Make that just happen. Yeah. Use light side. There we go. Okay. Done. So yeah, you just push him aside. Lock just kind of sears away as melted metal, and uh, Wow. Yeah. uh so yeah, you open a bunch of the guards are now on high alert. They have their carbines pointed at you. You come in, you do manage to get a glimpse of Bishop standing kind of with a very kind of aggressive, aggravated stance, pointing at a the image of a man in a imperial, well-dressed imperial uniform on a hollow communication thing as you barged in. I'm not gonna have Thrawn. Nice try. I don't even, I'd have to reread the Thrawn books to be like, man, get yeah, but he's also like incredibly smart, and I don't have even almost that level of brain power. I'm just a tabletop GM, guys. Come on. Um, you probably catch all of now or else you hear from the Imperial messenger officer as you barged in. Now or else. And yeah, you barged in, the guards, all pointed at you as you came in. A couple of like four of the guards come up and they're just like, this isn't really the time. You lost a friend. Who? Are they hostile? What's going on? I think like maybe like a couple of them take the lead. They like lead you guys kind of back out the room as the aggressive conversation continues between Bishop and the hollow image of the Imperial officer. And they go, okay, we don't have time. We got Imperials bearing down on us. Like, could you not pick the worst time? No, we're the Huts. Why we don't give a shit about the Imperials? Well, probably more turned to the guard. You were kind of somewhat led partly out the room. But I think as you do that to the guards, and they're kind of, they're a little taken back, because I mean, change of tone. You shot in a door, barged in, and now all of a sudden it's like, guns for hire. How can I help? But I do think the conversation you do notice ends. I think you see the hollow image just kind of fizzle out, and Bishop just kind of slams her fist on the console and turns around and starts barking commands to the soldiers about be ready. They'll probably be here any moment, type thing. And yeah, that's when the guard kind of looks back to her and looks back to you and is like, "Well, I we don't know when until they land, but sure, fine, come with." And they nod. They're like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." So yeah, what's Kato's next step before we get to a scene or cut scene? Yeah, the security probably comes with you and shows you over. He's hurriedly doing this. He wants to get this over. Because now this is an unnecessary complication when hell is about to rain down. So yeah, he helps you come over. You get to a security office. There's maybe just the one like a juniorish looking officer or juniorish attendant there. And you get in and it's what you expect from a security, a wall of small poorly colored monitors because it's Star Wars, so it's not like exactly they have 1080p stuff. Um, a bunch of that. It covers most of the palace, like tons and tons, like dozens of rooms. Like the place is so massive, and you see the movement and flow of troops and the security and stuff organizing. A lot of them they start switching to perimeter cameras to the like anti-air defenses and stuff like that as they start kind of like going from like rest and then they're coming up online and at attention and whatnot as things are kind of getting hectic. And yeah, what do you do from here? Probably just if you're just glancing through, it's probably just gonna be more perceptional. If you want to try something else, like try to like work some of them and computers it. Sure. Um, Probably still again two purple and a red. It's still based on her stealth. Wow, it says that and then fails. It's a failure in a threat. Um, so yeah, you're not able to get much of a thing. There's just nothing in plain sight that you can really scrap or scrape as like information to work with on where things would be. And the threat is I think the threat will be basically like filling a clock of um it's I don't well I don't want to spoil and like meta spoil it, but basically it's the threat is I guess we'll just say Lizzie accomplishes what she's here for. Uh he looks at it, we haven't had time to move it yet. What do you mean? It's still in there. Things went awry really quick when you showed up, and he gives you kind of that bit of that narrow-eyed, weary glance at you. I mean, again, literally about 5, 10 minutes. This has been since you made the deal, or so. It's like it's short amount of time, right? You're not planning on going back on the deal after all this hell just broke loose, do you? Painful thinking face. The whole the bridge nose holding one where you have to. Yeah, he still kind of seems really perplexed by that. Just what? Hmm. Oh man. Um, because you're actually probably telling the truth with this, aren't you? It's tricky because it sounds like bullshit, right? Like this is like the weird role because it's not a deception on your part. It's true, but it really sounds like bullshit. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do this as charm. I mean, because you're not lying, so it can't be deception. But like, we have to give the guard a chance because like he's in that middle of like, oh, I just want to culp. Um, yeah. So give me where is one of these? Give me three purple charm. Actually, are you going to flip? Okay. Wow. Look at that. Look at that, chat. Nailed it. Five successes, but three threats. And we're just going to keep ticking the clock. Um, so yeah, we're working. She's there's like that Jaws theme. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. But yeah, God damn it. We didn't want to turn this into Spaceballs, and look what you're doing. Stop it. So, God. Yeah. Um. So he believes you, like you've managed to come through with some genuineness, and somehow even not knowing you, he finds that you're not going to pull some silly fast one, even though it does sound like you're going to pull the fast one. If this were anybody else, this were Blades in the Dark, this was the shenanigans that you would pull in a heist for that. But yeah, so you get through. So he takes it and he goes, all right, we'll go back to the central room and try to see if Bishop will let this happen. And you know, kind of like a yo-yo, you're back towards you start heading back towards the central room. Nard, what were you doing again? It was the whole trying to convince everyone not to shoot you goal, or do you have something else? Sorry. I mean, you won't be able to flip a point to just know where she is. You're still gonna have to look for her. But it's how do you go about doing so? Um, sure. I'm just trying to think if there's anything you could do with the. I'm trying to think if there's anything you could do with the Destiny to flip for, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anything that really makes sense. I think there has to be the whole looking for. So yeah, yeah, if you're just looking with your eyes and just trying to like, lumber around basically, then give me the two purple and a red perception. Unless you want to try some other way. Yeah. Yes, yes, sir. The flipping this thing just gives you the upgrade on the roll. Yeah, it doesn't do too much else. No boost die, and like I said, I don't think there's anything to just make happen per se. Trying to think of something that could do. Yeah, you got the up. That's what flipping the upgrade. You get one upgrade. Okay. You're not able to get a good grasp. Eyes and ears trying to wander around. It's getting too hectic. It's hard to like really pick out fine details and whatnot. And well, when you get towards as you're in the palace part, um, because you and Mason came here to because he gave you the goal of like telling people not to not to not just not shoot you, but like not think you're the bad guys or something was kind of what Mason was asking. And there's no like other buildings around, so like you two had to go to the palace first, and then I said you branched off to go about your kind of your own tasks, right? So the busyness is that just yeah, there's a lot of soldiers that's gonna be very armed. They're all kind of getting enforce like reinforcements of the building itself. They're getting into posts. They're getting like covers, like defensive cover position things that they can set up. They're getting those like out of like closets and weapons locker rooms. What would they would be? They're armories, like armory rooms. They're getting like all this stuff. It looks like they're about to be like sieged almost. You know what I mean? Like it's looking like suddenly the place is going to be like ground zero for a fight, which you already have the pretense knowledge that it's probably the Empire. The threat is we keep going with that clock, the bar. But luckily, they're not bothering you. You're still kind of able to get around. It's just the place is busy. You can pull aside a guard. Um, maybe a mid-ranked one in between tasks. The guard kind of looks at you and goes, all right, that's fine. We don't want to know you're here either, technically." Yeah, I mean, of course, the place has a security room. Yeah, right. Um, yeah, maybe sure enough, maybe there's that weird moment like you're heading towards the security room and like Kato's coming back out of it to go back towards like the central room, and you guys have the passing, glance towards each other. Maybe you're within a bit of a voice shot of each other. Yeah. Sure. I could probably do something like that. In the middle of probably in the middle of other announcements and stuff, PA system announcements of this group go over to this area and da set up fortifications here, and everybody, like all this type of like chatter between guards and whatnot, and also it's just, "Hey, Lizzie, get back to the ship." Congene, report to the security office. Congene, report to the security office. Yeah. Um, we can give it a whirl. I Given the circumstance, I don't think you'll entirely swear. You can make her hesitate. Opportunities. Yeah. Charm towards her. I think it's cool. Oh, it could be discipline. Kind of. Actually, let me do a quick refresher on the difference between them, because I sometimes forget. Yeah, that sounds about right, but I'm gonna do it the old-fashioned way. We'll consult the book. Cool. Present. Stay calm and think while one's life hangs in the balance can be essential for survival amidst constant stream of imperial threats. Prioritize issues. Yeah, it's cool. So be 3 purple base. Do you use any light or dark? Or light? You can't use dark. Yeah. Yeah, you use the dark side. No, I do though. Purple, 2 purple and a red. Yes. Upgrade on the bad side. Okay. um. Wow, that's actually quite a bit of threat. So you have 2 successes. So you're going to make her hesitate. Um. The thing is, so like, well, pretty much almost maybe like 1 or so of that threat pretty much already fills the clock. And I think the other is, yeah, you're kind of a little disruptive, and then since you're not with the Kato's guard doing stuff, you just basically they like kick you out, kind of like, what the fuck are you doing in the security office? And you basically get like pulled out from the PA system controls and all that. So you lose basically access to the security room. And yeah, fair enough. Anything else we want you doing in the next moment or so before we cut? Nerd? Okay. Just hope you're okay. So we'll do a bit of a cutscene as Mason's kind of with the rest of the regular guards and kind of the like royal guards, the more armored group that's kind of mostly guards, kind of the main room, but it seems like they're also like the senior ranks of the rest of the guards. Um, there's also a good handful of a couple like groupings of droids that are like basically pulled out of dust collection essentially, um and turned online and brought out. They're like maybe given like the quick rundown of things and maybe the briefest of updates, and getting kind of in with the rest of the group to bolster the numbers and add some extra shooting people. Maybe some of them are even just a bunch of them are just put on to anti-air emplacements, like basically like the turrets. As sure enough, squadrons of TIE fighters and bombers and a trio of Lambda shuttles start breaching the clouds and start pouring down towards the palace on top of this massive structure. Okay. Basically kick a droid out, and it gives you kind of that B1 weird ass voice. It's like, hey, that was unnecessary. Yeah, I'm going to assume you're opening fire. Just a wild shot at guess. Yeah. All right, give me a hard gunnery check. Yeah. It's close. Just a single success. So you start peppering shots through, you know, do 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 into the sky. As like you probably like lead the charge. You're like the first turret to start opening up fire, and then the rest of the droids take the lead and just start kind of like scattering shots into the sky. And you're getting you get a couple TIE fighters and whatnot. You know, lance them right through the cockpit, and they give off that beautiful, fiery explosion. Um, yeah, there's probably like a comms that's between the gunners and some sort of command officer, basically that coordinates all of you, basically, of prioritizing targets. So yeah, there'd be like a channel for that. Yeah, sure. The fire is decent. You do pepper some down. You probably like as maybe the bombers come in and get into their like winged formation or sometimes a line formation, going for like the shield generators. Basically, you probably maybe get those as the core um priority targets, as you know, kind of as we kind of know the devastation that bombers can do when they're not looking for the Millennium Falcon in an asteroid belt or field. And you mostly get a bunch of them down, so they don't do a whole lot. You manage to keep them scattered, and not let them come up to a good bombing run, and that does probably a lot of good. So the fighters just kind of stay a bit distanced. They probably get caught up finally. Maybe there's a very slow response before some Hut fighters join in the fray, but there's not a lot of them. This isn't, it's not enough that, because there's no ship for them to originate. The planet doesn't kind of really expect too much to actually happen, so they're kind of quickly outnumbered. But you at least deal with the bombers, but the shuttles still kind of get a free reign, and they eventually settle in. Um, the trio of them, bunch of the troops as they start coming into the landing. Bunch, obviously, the formation of the around the palace quickly kind of layers up of their formation in that direction. Now they know where they settled in on, and we'll probably say it's like the if the Remembrance and the Poodoo were on the south facing of the main building, they're on the east, where the Imperials set down in terms of all the landing pads relative to the main structure. And they settle down, and the ramps open. Troops start marching out, um, with a couple, some mostly standard stormtroopers. Obviously, there's senior sergeants kind of for each main group, and each lambda at the back of it, the last thing to come out is a very tall, kind of mostly stormtrooper looking entity. Comes out with very kind of stiff movements, and it's holding what you can clearly recognize as a missile tube. And it's large, black armored, like jet black, but with a glossy stormtrooper style to it. And yeah, very stiff, strong motions compared to the lesser stormtroopers that it like towers over, and each one of them has one that leaves out the end of the ramp. Sure. They set down and they came. Yeah, will come in the formations way, like all the guards that have set up and kind of got what they could ready. They create like lines of troopers and stuff against the guards of this place. Okay. And sure enough, the blaster fire starts back and forth, just a heavy spray going to and from the troops and the guards, and they're like, they're I don't know what to call this, the covers that they set up, just in emplacements, basically. Like it's kind of like just like little walls that just are packed up and then kind of fold out and set up as something that they can take cover behind. And they have a bunch of those for all the royal guard. The stormtroopers don't as much. They're kind of just going in straight up themselves, basically, but they're pushing, like they're just moving forward with the push as we see those. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fires. Some of them do go down. Some of the royal guards go down. It's, a fair firefight. Actually, it probably looks initially it looks actually like the royal guards are doing quite good. They're actually keeping, like, even though stormtroopers are just pushing forward or like walking forward, they're losing a lot on the front. Like the front boys are just falling basically because they're just, lambs to the slaughter for the initial wave, basically. And we'll cut back to Kato. So what's Kato's next step? It was to go back and set a trap. Okay. So how do you go about it? I think there's a lot of panic and a lot of the situation that's kind of a big bustle and whatnot. You can get access to the chest. It's because you only brought it a little bit into the room, so it's kind of like just off to like the left after you go through the double doors, basically like that. So you can. Hmm. It's a little bit tricky. Yeah, like that question, he has to like think a little bit because it's kind of like hard to like get the grass other than just he's just like maybe mentions like just out in the foyer, but he's like, do you want it to be obvious? Yeah, as you go into the main room to retrieve the chest, you see that the lid is opened. You step forward, and all that's inside is a puddle of water. So I said the clock filled, and we're going to go to break on that. We'll see you guys in 10 minutes as Morik rips out his hair. See you guys soon. And we're back. Thank you for your patience. We had our break. We got our stretch. So, we just learned that the... Oh, issues with Crazy Maniac again. We just learned that the artifact has been retrieved in a very inadvertent fashion. And Kato is now looking into a chest of a puddle of cold water. And obviously, the guard kind of like turns the look at him. Not going to try and take it back, right? Okay, what's the next step? Okay. Uh, yeah, well, give me a. There's not an investigation because it's still just perception. No, streetwise wouldn't work. No, it doesn't work. Yeah, I guess it's just a perception. 3 purple. Yeah. Oh wow, you actually succeed for once. Oh, imagine that. It happens sometimes. The dice don't always betray you. Just after certain plot points get going, then they, Uh, I think looking around, because you're like, okay, can't possibly have gone in the doors that we've been walking back and forward from. So you're looking around at like other access points of this room, and I think that's when you notice that like it's just like a bit out of place, but you notice like the covering for a vent just isn't quite like it's not flush. It's not flush with the wall, right? And it's it seems like it's a fairly sizable vent in terms of how it could fit a humanoid person. Uh, I'm trying to think. Is that a Star Wars thing? What's a Star Trek thing? Uh, in the oh god damn it. Um, I mean when the place is on lockdown, there's there's trip sensors, but not in situations like this. I mean, we're active right now. We're not like, going out for vacation. There's nothing in the vents. I mean, we can pour some gas in there and give everyone some gas mask equipment. We can flush her out. She lives. I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, yes, but I mean, then we're shutting off airflow to certain rooms and whatnot. And he's like, all right, yeah, okay, okay. Well, Jesus Christ, the people you associate with. And yeah, so you can make a course for that. I guess check in with Nard. What's Nard up to? Actually, because Kato, are you updating anybody on anything? Okay. Um, mm, that is a bit tricky. E- I mean, I think more that you'd probably have yeah, I think the range would be okay. It'd be a bit tricky. It's a bit of a range. But I think you would probably have some sort of like call signal. Not necessarily strictly like an actual comm link per se, so much as it's a get here and it like maybe like is able to provide like a short range transponder type of thing of like this direction this way, you know what I mean, like so it can get to you, so maybe something like that. Yeah. Yeah, you won't, like I said, you won't be able to communicate until it gets to you, but you know, you can do that. It can get, you know, can kind of rush its little wheels over to you into the building. And yeah, you can give it its directives, basically. Depends on how much you want it to do. The tricky part will be, I mean, it might be able to find her. The tricky part is what it does about that, because you don't have a comm to it, so it'll have to like come back to tell you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's not the most. I don't think mouse droids come with a bunch of utility, even though Kato bought it. Well, I don't think he bought it brand new, but he bought it on Nar Haaska. So it wasn't. No, you didn't salvage it. You bought it, right? Yeah, pretty sure you bought it. Yeah, the mouse droid. I think. Or was it salvaged into? Man, that was a while ago. I'm pretty sure too. But yeah, it was relatively basic, so it doesn't come with any bells or whistles like a camera uplink or something like that. So yeah, it is going to be a little encumbersome in terms of pros, but you can do it. Um, we need to make up what the mouse droid's role would be. what it's I guess it's gonna still be perception how it's gonna do this. How capable do we think it would be? Probably give it purple and a yellow, or a yellow. What the hell? Doesn't make any sense. Green and a yellow, and make it a three purple check. Just you'll have to just put it all at the top, I think, pretty much. Unless that's what your perception roll happens to be, but yeah. Nah. It's yeah. Well, I don't think it should have been probably just a purple, but you had no successes anyway, so there was no ability because you just had advantages, so it wouldn't have really done too much to change anything. So it's unable to find her, obviously, because it failed its own little perception roll. The advantage is though, um, hmm, it. I mean, it's a little open ended, but I think it could. I mean, it could do stuff in the vent if you have some other idea. Like, there's maybe an opportunity for like some. Maybe there's not. Some of the vents aren't proper ventilated. Like they're like they mesh with like circuitry and other uh, wiring and stuff like that of the building. So like it could mess with some of those to do something if you want to like some follow up that it can access. It could do something from there with that, but it's yeah not able to find her specifically when it comes back. Airflow, sure, yeah, yeah. You could I guess it depends on the specifics. Are you like forcefully closing vents type thing, or are you messing with the wires to make it like the system in the house do it for you type of thing? I would assume it's probably more the wires. Yeah, so yeah, that'd be more computers. We'll say just three purple, normal, computers check. Okay. Yep. You're creating a limitation, basically a time constraint for things to start going bad for her. The threat will be well, I think it's kind of similar. It's basically like almost like another clock that to keep giving Lissy her win condition is basically it's going towards that. So basically, it's just kind of like the other one. It's like another 8 clock of threat that she is able to leave in some fashion. So you're 2 out of 8. I might actually have to bring the clocks in here if I end up using them more. Yeah, time is taking. It's just when someone closes the door, they open a window. It's just you're having a very interesting battle with how capable she actually is. So we'll cut back to Mason, and I think the imagery is pretty much pretty poignant and pretty on the nose when the missile tubes are fired and streaking into one of them goes into the formation of soldiers and just and a bunch of troops just get thrown into the air. Formation, the defensive barriers, a bunch of them are scattered and knocked over. Two others go for like the anti-air placements. One of them like hits the one off to your like left. Maybe you like flinch and turn a little bit as another one comes streaking in towards yours. You like leap out just in the time as as it impacts into your anti-air turret and sends it up into wreckage and flame. And these large guys start reloading. Okay. Um yeah, a bit probably still a bit out of range. You know, you take some shots. The stormtroopers would be closer. You could hit them if you wanted. Yeah, you provide some fire, maybe either cover fire as they kind of try to reform and whatnot. They're still dealing with the stormtroopers as they're pushing forward, so it's kind of a mixed fire. Like, you know, some of the royal guards are trying to direct them towards the big, now revealed as dark troopers. We'll just call them that. But you know, trying to shoot for the dark troopers while others still are kind of laying down fire on the stormtroopers. Now it's like that divided problem that is what the Empire excels at in terms of strategy, where they just come at you and kind of just get effed. Yeah, I think so you start doing that, you start making the retreat back in towards like the interior of the like palace as, you know, TIE fighters start doing strafing runs on the outside on the guards and the droids and whatnot, and they start kind of creeping further back as the Empire creeps forward. Eventually another streak of missiles get launched out of the missile tubes from the dark troopers, and all three of them just smash into the eastern wall of the palace and just rip holes right through it, you know, like all along first, second, third floor levels, basically, and just puncturing giant holes into it. Just rubble and duracrete and stuff are going flying everywhere. And yeah, maybe even another one tries to almost go for the door that's been retreating, but it just like maybe someone manages to nick it with a blaster and send it slightly off course, and it goes up above you guys and hits like the fourth floor area, and just showers dust and stones and down basically on you guys for a few moments as you guys are like shooting and moving, shooting and moving. But you'll make it back in the palace. You do have the luxury that as you went the kind of like the path leading to that eastern entrance does kind of have a bit of like a funnel, like the walls kind of have like a slanted side to it with the doors being kind of an inset. So when the troopers do get actually towards the door, they'll end up having to be more narrow filed leading into the actual door. So you do have that luxury. uh They, I mean, they informed me that they were set up in those defensive placements outside, basically, that they're gradually retreating from. Like that was where they were laying down the fire from, and sort of some of the stuff with. Um, yeah, I think. I mean, this could be something you could flip Destiny for if you want. They could have maybe one of them could have been taken down and brought in on the retreat, and maybe you have like the one or so if you want, and it could be like a repeating blaster there. Sure, sure, okay, done. You have the one. They, um, roll me a D. Give me 3D12. At least slash R slash R space whatever. Now some dice bots for discords and stuff will do that. You have 16 guys. Give me a two purple leadership to see how well you take charge of these guys. We'll use it to determine their effectiveness, which is gonna be rugged. Gonna be rugged. A fail and advantage. They they're liking you for some reason. You're coming off, somehow personable or something. You got that charisma and that endearment, but they're still gonna be kind of shoddy at their job. Yeah. But you get her set up. You get the repeating blaster going. It's where you order it set up. Um, yeah, as the stormtroopers are creeping closer, you probably hear the rumbling of more explosions as missiles are slamming into the walls of the palace in complete shock and awe formation. Okay. The best way and win. Um, but they can never take our freedom. It's interesting shoes to fill all of a sudden, isn't it? Sure enough, more missiles slam into the up further on the path. It looks like they kind of scattered some shots on the top floors, basically. So, you probably see some like rocks and chunks of building basically just tumbling down that massive grand staircase and smashing into the marble floors behind you, basically. Your guys or theirs? So they have um what did I mean to write with that? Oh, integrated. That's what integrated. So the droids have their own integrated blasters. The normal guards have carbines. The royal guards have rifles, which is basically a step above. But they may, I can see maybe a couple grenades between them, but not a lot. Like they probably, when the initial arrival happened, they probably tossed most of them into the fray then, before the missile tubes basically unloaded. All right, let's see the roll. Let's see the hard gunnery roll. Maybe at long range. Two successes, two advantage. Yeah, you start just unloading, the repeating blast, like spraying shots. The rest of the troops are, with the doors open, are taking as many from their whatever their setup is and how their angles are. They're just spraying fire. You basically just turn that doorway into a vomit of blaster fire of hut weapons, and you start just sure, yeah. And you mow down a good number of stormtroopers and you start peppering shots into the dark troopers. You get that noticeable, ding. His shoulder kind of flinches back and then kind of straightens as they keep going towards you. But yeah, you're definitely thinning their numbers. Like their numbers aren't too great right now necessarily. So it's like, I mean, yeah, you're starting to turn things around. That was a good play. So you kind of have sort of even things, which is a weird statement to say in reference to the Empire, but it's true. Kato, what are you up to? Um, it's funny story. It was going well, but as it turns out, a bunch of missiles have started to hit the building, and it's making that kind of tricky. Because now in some places there just isn't vents anymore, you know? That face palm. I shouldn't be laughing, but it's just that expression just encompasses so much, you know? Oh, yeah. The security guard shakes his head. Yeah, yeah, proxy searching. Say it again. He seems really unsure. It's like I don't know actually. That's not really. I mean, Empire is at our front door. I'm not the maintenance guy. I'm a soldier, man. Uh, he's yeah. I mean, all right, all right, all right, all right. Yeah, we'll get right on this. Fucking, he's like trying to like, who's that guy that? And he leaves for a little bit to go and grab someone and try to like get something going. Anything you do in the meantime? You can hear blaster fire and commotion. The buildings rumble numerous times. Just to be clear, all of them. Yeah, I mean, you could access the computer and basically flip. Um, when you go to access the computer, you find that most of them have already been shut anyways. Okay, done. Can you check for error reports? Just say it again. Okay, sure. Um, Give me a computer's roll to sift through the data on that. Um, to do it quickly. I guess it wouldn't be. I guess we'll just do hard. I was gonna say whether it was gonna be four purple, but I guess it's just air reports are pretty straightforward. But three purple. Hmm, interesting. So no failure, but something really good happens, which is be a breath of fresh air considering things. Um, I'll open the floor to you if you have an idea of how you'd want what you'd want your triumph. You could okay if you want that to be the triumph, sure. All this commotion and stuff that's happening is drastically delaying her. Done. Okay. You say okay. Okay. Kato, give me a four four purple resilience on how well you handle the heat. The vents are now getting hot. It's amazing how all those come right back to the dark side eventually. Yeah. Man, I got 4 points to spend just to get it, make it so she gets out. Easy peasy. Thanks, bro. Flood the vents with water? Yeah, that's incredibly impractical considering there'd be no way to seal the water in, since vents have, openings in all the rooms and stuff, so the water would never build up. You, you're resilient. I don't know how you're handling the heat, but you're handling it. Like if there's any particular narrative for, especially for a Nautilin. Yeah, yeah. Okay. He's big balls in it. All right. All right. Now let's see. What would we need to pursue her? No, because we'd want to say that for any restraining. There's no piloting vents. Um, I, I guess it would just be athletics. I mean, I guess we could go back to perception, and we haven't done that in a while, so I guess we could just do that as you're moving through and see if you can spot her or some trail of hers. Yeah, because that could be used for a trail. So yeah, do the perception, two purple and a red, still her stealth. Um, but hang on. Yeah, yeah. Give her more of a fighting chance. So then, oh, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, I could. I guess I kind of have to. She's a desert dweller, right? So she would get a blue, But since we're only making you roll, you get the black die for it. Because the heat doesn't bother her as much as it bothers you. She comes from a hot planet, technically. Yeah, yeah, valid point. Yeah. So it should look like a black, a purple, and two reds is what it should look like. Uh yeah, you're not able to find her or really much of like a trail of her. Like, damn, she's good. The advantage is hmm. I say the advantage is it's kind of a weird, maybe weak advantage unless you have something else in mind. But I was saying you managed to avoid any of the sheer openings in the building that would pretty much just open you into the war outside, basically. Like you don't like suddenly like pass through a vent that just isn't there, and then all of a sudden there's this blaster fire riddling into you. Basically, you've managed to avoid any openings in the building and ending up in the crosshairs of the Imperials. You've managed to follow the vents that are still in the building and not exposed. Now you can think about what you do next because we'll go back to Mason. How are you holding up, buddy? uh let's get the Dark Trooper roll then. We'll see how they've been, or the Empire as a whole. Um yeah, they are. I did write them down. Huzzah! Alright, everything else. So we give them wow. They didn't do too well. Now you can do your shot. Be um yeah, I still have them at long range. I haven't gotten them up to medium yet, so unless you want the stormtroopers would be at medium. So you have the choice whether to thin the little guys or still keep smashing the big guys. You're you're not doing too well either. Yeah, nice gif. I think the advantage is oh, it's kind of tricky because they also got some advantage too. Hmm. I think your advantage is maybe you've gotten them to kind of hold a position for the moment, so they stopped creeping forward. Their advantage is it's probably more like the rest of the TIE fighters and stuff. Like they've disposed of the Hut fighters that confronted them, and they're starting to do a lot of other like damage to the rest of the building's main like systems and stuff. Like maybe they've even like shot down like we see like the satellite dish just getting kind of go up in flames basically for its like comm links or its communications array and stuff like that. So like the TIE fighters and stuff are doing their job on the rest of that, which is leaving the building pretty crippled. Maybe even a couple of the things they hit, like the lights, all the lighting in this building that keeps everything kind of like bright and shiny, all like flicker and dim on the inside, and now it's getting a lot more like shadowed and darker in here. Still got a couple of those grenades. We still said you had a couple of grenades if you wanted to like call when those are used. Hmm. Did this would be like a side entrance essentially, like, or I mean, this main hall sort of kind of has entrances that are like south, west, and east essentially. So like south would be back towards your ship, west would be to some other landing pads, and east is to where the Empire set down on. So there's basically the three entrances. Okay. Uh, okay. If you want, I'll basically let you kind of roll for them. You can just do a green, two yellow, and two purple roll. That'd be it's the equivalent of their ranged light. One success. It's all right. The grenades go okay. Not amazing. They actually don't trigger the blast effect. So they kind of hit a bunch of troopers kind of square on and get a bunch of them, but they don't like get much of a radius effect around them. Probably because now this is where the funneling maybe has worked against you now in this case, because they're coming in kind of only like a couple at a time, or in, you know, like two rows rather than like a whole wave of troops. So now it's kind of it's turned against you, perhaps is the way we can flavor it. So it's okay. I mean, you definitely are still thinning them. There's probably not too many stormtroopers left, but all the big guys are up still, and there's still, like, you know, most of the sergeants and stuff that are in their cover. All right. Well, I'll give you another gunnery roll and see if you can do, you know, some reasonable damage, because like at this point you got missile tubes aiming right down the doorway. Um, we'll say two. I think maybe they've stepped in the range if you want. All right. Well, next week we're gonna roll a new party. So, the two, well, actually, we'll see what their roll. We'll see what their role is, because we'll they fuck up too. No one could hit the broadside of anything at this point. Oh, a stormtrooper. Yeah, there's the dark troopers are still stormtroopers, you know. So the mid so it's a complicated series event. So like your shots is kind of like spray through. They're not really hitting anything. They're just smashing into cover and maybe like other bodies of stormtroopers and stuff like that. Um, but it's doing a pretty job keeping them at bay. Whereas the dark troopers, you know, they heft up, let the rockets go basically. But maybe as you just are relentlessly shooting, you're just like bearing down and just streaming fire out of that repeating blaster, and maybe it like knocks, maybe you catch one of them and it explodes in midair, and the other two kind of get thrown off course, and they split, and they slam into the walls on either side of the doorway. And basically, what they've done is they now made the doorway much larger. That's all their advantages, their four advantages. So like, it didn't hit anybody. You didn't lose any troops. It missed, but now there's not just a door there. It's a gaping hole. Could always roll that discipline to see if you scare it out. All right. I think Dark Troopers be. I think it's like three purple, maybe four. I think we'll go with three. Although Misatubes are really fucking scary though, but yeah, we'll go with three. Oh, 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 oh no! You're afraid. It's finally gotten to you. Okay, sure. Any any comms? Um, it depends if it's a deception or not. How do you phrase it? What are the words that you shout through the vents? Okay. You're just lying the trapper. Okay. Uh, Surprisingly, only two purple. Yeah, I figured it's like if you weren't, I was. No, that was for the heat of the pursuing in the heat of the vents. This is just words. Okay. Finally, the dice kind of give him a little bit. Um, yeah, you hear distantly, kind of echoing through the ventilation and whatnot, and you hear the no. I want to keep it. It's mine now. I want to be free. I don't want to be a slave anymore. You're not taking it away. It's my power now. Um, so yeah, you follow her over to her voice, and she's, standing kind of on the. It's an interesting scene because I guess it's like you come around like a corner of the vents towards the other part, and you see her on like the other side of this vent, and in between is a hole in the wall where a missile had like blown out part of the building. So there's just like the wind just kind of blowing through the area, and down below you hear the blaster fire and all the commotion from the war battle that's being had in front of the east wing, basically, of this area, this palace. And she's like standing there, and she's got it in her hand, and there's like, like three of them are now unlocked on the corners are like turned and stuff. Why? You gave this to me, and now you want to take it away. You forced me to touch it. Now you want to take away my power. She holds it up and she goes, "This will keep us safe." Of course it will. It told me it would keep me safe. She winces. You brought this to us. I didn't bring this. I'm just getting it back. You don't know it's bad. It's just trying to free us. Were we? Do you feel free? Through victory, my chains are broken. You just need power. Everyone all the people that cause us problems have power. That's why they get to do all these mean things to us. We just have to have more than them. Let's see the charm check. Three purple. That's our cool. Um, actually, three purple and a black. I mean, she's got the rhetoric that's pretty convincing in there. Ooh, wow. They get the dice taketh, the dice the dice giveth, the dice taketh away. This time in reverse. All right, you're gonna so You get to succeed on it. What do you want the triumph to be? What do you have in mind for the triumph? Something real. Yeah, it's kind of lame for a triumph. An advantage sometimes here and there. Triumph needs to be a little more oomph to it. I mean, if you want, I don't like the. To be clear, if she just drops it, well, I guess if you pick it up, you could return it still. But I was gonna say that's not returning it. Just to be we're clear, that's just dropping it. Like you might want to. Do we want me more clear, or was there going to be the follow up? Just so I know, like, kind of like the vent. It's kind of like the conclave of the explosion where the vent was like in the conclave. Yeah, if you're looking through a gap that's exposed to air, yeah. Okay, so it just falls down into the battle. All right, all right. So you were muted, Mason. We didn't catch any of that. All right, so like yeah, tears like well up in her eyes, and she finally that concentration and that focus starts cracking. Um, it's kind of in a similar but kind of somewhat other side of the fence version of when you were forcing her to touch the thing, and she was in that like traumatic kind of broken state sort of. So she finally does that, and her arm kind of sinks, and fingers go loose, and the the artifact tumbles out of her hand and just rolls down the conclave of the explosion and then just kind of disappears like a scattered pebble down on the into the battle basically below. And she like walks forward and inches across what's left of the vent shaft to your side of the open gap. Ah, unfortunately, we had 10 minutes still to go, so I was gonna say that we could have closed on that. That would have been really good, but yeah, it's fun. We see you embrace the purple Twi'lek as she's like crying and sobbing into your chest, and yeah, what next? Because you didn't respond to him. Remember? No, there was some scattered shots, but you make it at the southern entrance, and you're halfway to the remembrance and hoodoo, I guess, technically by extension. But your calm about you have Lizzie could go to Nard. That might be useful. Yep. Work, work. I can't build there. Right? Yeah. Something. Uh, no, no. Well, nothing that you're gonna roll for. It's hectic as you bout face, and as the main room with the grand staircase is now being smashed in by blaster fire, and troopers are starting to file in. But you kind of like scamper through them, sure enough, out the door, and kind of leave the mayhem behind you. And you probably even catch up to Kato on and Lissy on their way out, and like the trio of you can be running off to the ship unless there's anything else left you guys want to do. All right. Mason runs over the Poodoo. The three remaining to remembrance, correct? Perfect. All right. Nard True. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it next week. So yeah, Nard and Mason rev up the Poodoo and trying to get her space bound again, and Kato goes with the seek back to the remembrance so he can make her touch another artifact against her will. Yeah. Sure. That's fine. No, not that type of prick. I mean, proxy doesn't really do that much anyways. It's not like it's a huge bit of power gaming. Um, uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, I mean, if you have to spend credits to make it good, then you have to spend credits to make it good. Um, uh, oh. Okay. Well, I was going to make us have to roll for something like that. So, basically what we'll do. Um, so as the two ships lift off and get spaceborne, give me a piloting space roll, normal, Kato. You don't you don't have your normal you don't your normal pilot's not in good sense right now. Yeah. 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 It's a rough flight. It's really real rough. Um, Maybe I'll think of no. You got the advantage, so nothing too tangibly Broncos, but it's a rough flight. The Purdue's fine. We know Mason's capable, even if he's a little shook. You're wobbling and pitching and turning and trying to get her up there, and it's not the smoothest, but you finally get up there. You kind of preen around planet side for a little bit to get, pretty good away from the Star Destroyer. But it seems to be preoccupied anyways. And sure enough, we'll see, look at the simultaneous image from both of your guys' cockpit as the stars streak forward and the ships are gone into hyperspace. And yeah, give me I gotta think of who's who in this one, since we're gonna do this grand roll. Unless you want me to keep it hidden. Let's like just GM roll it. Ooh. Uh, all right. No, I think we'll do it how I was originally gonna do it. Okay. Let me just do RGM / R space GM, I think. No, that was not it. Um, I don't know what the GM role is. Maybe I can just do it. GM. Oh, I can just do. Oh, but it needs to be a D4 or something. All right, so we'd have to do a D6 then to even it out, since there's only 3 options. Okay. All right. Well then, yeah, I guess as the closing scene is basically, as you guys are in space, maybe finally settling in for the first night after all the aftermath of this. Which there'll be some conversations next session. That'll be before this sleep. So this is a little kind of for jumping ahead type of thing. But I think we see the Zeke sleeping in her bunk at night, while Kato's busybody doing something, and yeah, and sure enough, as kind of suggested, we see a faint glow as the mouse droid rolls into her bunk in the middle of the night, and she peers over and sees it, and then we fade to black. You're in the Prudu. You're in the Prudu though. It's fine. It's fine. Right? Yeah. Uh, Here, I'll show chat the GM roll after I did it, but I got, so 1 to 2 would have been the Hutts, still they get it and complete the deal. Still 3 to 4 would have been the Empire, since they were there, and 5 to 6 was, yeah. So uh te- I mean, to be fair, Andreas kind of screwed you, because like I was just going to do a D2 and just see if it's the Hutts of the Empire that get it, so we find out where that goes, see if you still get paid or whatever. And then he mentioned the mouse droid, and I was just kind of like, well, I guess that's now a 3-way party. Okay, we'll leave it up to the dice, and there it was. It's a surprisingly, I guess, good turn of events to keep the whole like narrative of the season going. So that didn't just vaporize. So even though it's a weird roundabout, and there's gonna be a mouse droid that's gonna be lost in the filming of this next session. So nah, I mean, yeah, yeah. And anyways, to wrap it up, thank you all for being here. I hope you all had fun as we did. I know even though the rules were all up and down, this was a roller coaster of stress and anxiety and stuff. It's like that's perfect Star Wars. I don't think there's anybody in the table here that didn't. Well, I mean, unfortunately, Nard maybe didn't have as much to do, and I always kind of feel weird and bad. Okay. It just, it sometimes feels a little light and I do feel bad, but stay tuned with us. We'll keep going. Next session, we'll have some very interesting dialogue as the group figures out WTF is going on as and all the aftermath that comes from this. So, see you for episode 18, whatever salty title we call it then. Take it easy.